Welcome to QuickBytes Education. Today's QuickByte is all about neural networks, what they are, how they work, and why they matter in artificial intelligence and data science. Let's get started. Neural networks can sound complicated. You might hear words like neurons, layers, weights, bias, activation functions, training, and deep learning. But the basic idea is easier than it sounds. A neural network is a machine learning model that learns patterns from data. It takes in information, passes it through connected layers, and produces an output, like a prediction, label, or decision. Think of it like a pattern-finding system. The better it learns the pattern, the better its predictions can become. In this lesson, we'll cover 5 things. First, what a neural network is. Second, the main parts of a neural network. Third, how information moves through the network. Fourth, how a neural network learns. And fifth, why neural networks are important in artificial intelligence. A neural network is a type of machine learning model inspired by the way the brain processes information. Machine learning means computers learn patterns from data instead of being manually programmed for every single rule. Artificial intelligence, also called AI, is the broader field of making computers perform tasks that usually require human intelligence. Neural networks are one important tool used in AI. They are especially useful when the pattern is complex. For example, recognizing a face in a photo is not as simple as checking one number. Understanding speech is not as simple as reading one column in a spreadsheet. Neural networks help with these harder pattern recognition problems. At a simple level, a neural network has 3 main parts. The input layer receives the data. The hidden layers process the data. The output layer gives the final result. For example, imagine a neural network that predicts whether an email is spam. The input might include words from the email, links, sender information, and other features. The hidden layers look for patterns. The output layer gives a result, like spam or not spam. So the network takes information in, processes it, and produces a prediction. Inside each layer are small units, often called nodes or neurons. A node receives information, does a small calculation, and passes the result forward. One node by itself is not very powerful, but many nodes connected together can learn complex patterns. Think of each node like a tiny decision helper. One node might detect a small pattern. Another node might detect a different pattern. When many nodes work together across layers, the network can recognize much bigger patterns. 2 important ideas in neural networks are weights and bias. A weight controls how important one connection is. If a feature matters a lot, the network may give it a stronger weight. If a feature matters less, the network may give it a weaker weight. A bias helps shift the calculation so the network can fit patterns better. You do not need to memorize the math right now. Just remember this. Weights and bias are values the network adjusts while learning. They help the neural network improve its predictions. Another important part is the activation function. An activation function helps decide what information should move forward through the network. It also helps neural networks learn more complex patterns. Without activation functions, the network would be much more limited. You can think of an activation function like a gate. It takes the result from a node and decides how strongly that result should pass forward. This is one reason neural networks can handle complex tasks like image recognition, language processing, and speech recognition. Now let's walk through the flow. First, the network receives input data. Second, the input values move into the hidden layers. Third, each node uses weights, bias, and an activation function to process the information. Fourth, the results keep moving forward through the network. Finally, the output layer produces an answer. This process is called forward propagation. Forward propagation simply means the information moves forward through the network to make a prediction. A neural network learns by making predictions, checking mistakes, and adjusting itself. First, the network makes a prediction. Then it compares that prediction to the correct answer. The difference between the prediction and the correct answer is called loss. Loss measures how wrong the model is. If the loss is high, the model is making bigger mistakes. If the loss is low, the model is doing better. During training, the network updates its weights and bias to reduce loss. The goal is to make better predictions over time. Imagine a neural network learning to recognize pictures of cats. At first, it may guess poorly. It might confuse cats with dogs, stuffed animals, or other objects. But as it trains on many labeled examples, it starts learning patterns. It may learn that cats often have certain ear shapes, eye shapes, whiskers, fur patterns, and face structures. The network is not thinking like a human. It is finding mathematical patterns in the data. Over time, if trained well, it gets better at recognizing new cat images it has never seen before. You may also hear the term deep learning. Deep learning is a type of machine learning that uses neural networks with multiple layers. The word deep usually refers to having many hidden layers. More layers can help the network learn more complex patterns. For example, in image recognition, early layers might detect simple edges. Later layers might detect shapes. Even later layers might detect full objects. That layered learning is one reason deep learning is so powerful. Neural networks matter because they are used in many modern technologies. They help recognize images. They help understand speech. They help recommend videos, products, and music. They help translate languages. They help detect fraud. They help power chatbots and AI assistants. They can also support medical imaging, robotics, forecasting, and many other applications. Anytime a computer needs to learn a complex pattern from data, neural networks may be useful. A common mistake is thinking neural networks work exactly like the human brain. They are inspired by the brain, but they are not the same thing. A neural network is a mathematical model. It does not understand the world the way a person does. It learns patterns from examples. That distinction is important. Neural networks can be powerful, but they still depend on data quality, training, testing, and careful evaluation. Here's what you just learned. A neural network is a machine learning model that learns patterns from data. It is inspired by the brain, but it is not the same as a human brain. A neural network usually has an input layer, hidden layers, and an output layer. Nodes, or neurons, process information inside the layers. Weights control how important connections are. Bias helps adjust the calculation. Activation functions help the network learn complex patterns. Forward propagation means information moves forward through the network to make a prediction. Loss measures how wrong the prediction is. During training, the network adjusts weights and bias to reduce loss. And deep learning uses neural networks with multiple layers to learn more complex patterns. If this helped you understand neural networks, watch the full Data Science for Beginners playlist next. Like, subscribe, and keep building your knowledge with QuickBytes Education, one QuickByte at a time.